This is your morning Buzzcast for Monday, February 3rd. I'm Abe Madcourt. It's Super Bowl week. SBJ will have 3 people on the ground in New Orleans: Terry Lefton, Ben Fisher, and myself. I'll arrive Tuesday afternoon, so if you'll be there, love to say hello. The Chiefs and Eagles both arrived in New Orleans on Sunday. The Chiefs will be practicing at Tulane, while the Eagles will practice at the Saints training facility. Commissioner Roger Goodell, Monday afternoon, will kick off Super Bowl week by holding his annual State of the League press conference. He'll weigh in on a variety of topics. I'm sure he'll be asked about things like officiating, the 18-game schedule, probably product and quality of play on the field. He'll certainly be asked about head coach diversity ranks and international strategy and games. Ben Fisher will be attending and have a full report from Goodell's press conference later on Monday. Let's face it, New Orleans is a special Super Bowl host. And in fact, it's most people's favorite Super Bowl site. It's walkable. It's easy to get around. There's great food. New Orleans will be hosting its record-tying 11th Super Bowl. And there are a lot of eyes on whether or not this city will remain in the Super Bowl rotation. Certainly, city organizers are optimistic the game will be another success for the city. They have invested more than $500 million to modernize the Superdome, so the venue should show well and be more accommodating for big games like the Super Bowl. We'll have more all week about the Super Bowl. Again, Super Bowl week kicks off today. You know, I know we've talked a lot about this on the Buzzcast, but the speed in which this is coming shouldn't be overlooked, and that's an NBA European League. And now my friend Brian Windhorst reported that the NBA has already reached out to potential investors and has received interest in buying into teams for NBA Europe. The NBA is seriously considering starting a new standalone league in Europe, potentially starting in the 2026-27 season at the earliest. We've said before, the NBA believes there is a significant amount of untapped money in the European market for basketball, and the league believes that the NBA as an operator can come in, formalize it, set it up, sell tickets, sell sponsorships, sell media rights. And the NBA believes it can attract foreign investment, sovereign wealth funds in the Middle East, all of those entities that are showing great interest in sport around the world. And many believe the NBA's focus on a European league will actually slow the NBA's efforts at U.S. expansion. Remember, we've talked about Las Vegas and Seattle for a long time, but most people think the NBA's eyes and focus on NBA Europe. Let's just be clear, though. Nothing is finalized about an NBA Europe. It could still not happen. And it has been reported that the NBA's Board of Governors have a lot of questions about the concept. But believe me, this is moving faster than many people, including myself, thought it would. Let's shift to the NHL. The league's business is strong. The league's revenue hit a record $6.2 billion last season. The NHL set new marks in attendance and saw an increase in sponsorship revenue. Now it looks like they could have labor peace for some time. The relationship between the NHLPA and the league office is better than ever. And the two groups, the league and the NHLPA, issued a very transparent release about salary cap and future spending late last week, and it was incredibly rare. Basically, the two sides said it is projecting significant increase in the salary cap over the next 3 seasons. Bottom line, the NHL's salary cap will go from about $88 million to $113 million in a 3-year period. That's significant, and it's healthy for the league. And we will have to watch how many teams have the wherewithal and the interest to spend to the cap. It's clear that the NHLPA and the NHL move forward by releasing these numbers because they're fully confident they will reach a long-term collective bargaining agreement. I've been told the work that remains is not economics at all, but more about player health, player safety, and other issues around the game. But the NHL and the NHLPA continue to show the growth of the league following COVID, and that kept the salary cap largely stagnant for several years. But now, as I outlined, over the next 3 years, the NHL will see significant growth in its revenue and salary cap. Let's move on. More details about the WNBA expansion process, as overall, bids from at least 10 groups were submitted before the deadline of January 30th. Markets represented included Detroit, Nashville, Philadelphia, Houston, Cleveland, Miami, Milwaukee, Kansas City, St. Louis, Austin. In Detroit, the investment group is led by Pistons owner Tom Gores and also includes the Lions principal owner Sheila Ford Hamp and General Motors CEO Mary Barra. That's a very strong ownership bid. Remember, the Shock had been in Detroit for years, and now they're looking to bring the league back to the Motor City. Other investors include Grant Hill, Chris Webber, Jared Goff, and Denise Illich. The franchise would be expected to play at Little Caesars Arena. Meanwhile, the 76ers ownership group made it official. They want to bring the W to Philadelphia. That bid had been expected since the 76ers and Comcast Spectacor struck a deal to jointly build and operate a new venue. So a lot of cities going for one expansion team. I still think Philadelphia is a strong bid, but so is Detroit, so is Nashville, so are many others. So a good decision to be made for the WNBA. Let's move to college. Friday was the deadline for filing objections to the nearly $2.8 billion NCAA antitrust settlement. That is the House settlement, and that yielded more than a dozen legal challenges representing hundreds of college athletes who are filing some objection toward the deal. But most sources believe House settlement is still likely to be approved by Judge Claudia Wilkin during a hearing on the settlement for April 7th. Yes, that is the day of the men's Final Four finals. And so an interesting day for Judge Wilkin to issue her hearing ruling on April 7th. In other college news, Nebraska football coach Matt Rule, he said they will not go forward with the spring game that is normally held in Nebraska because he's concerned of other teams watching and poaching his players. He said that there is such an open market now, and he doesn't want other universities to see these players play and potentially target them to come to their school. Now remember, the spring game, a long tradition at Nebraska. Last year, it drew more than 60,000 fans. It was televised on the Big Ten Network. So some form of event will happen on April 26th, but Matt Rule said it will not be televised at all. Basically, he wants nobody to see his players and how they perform on the field in a spring setting. Let's end the Buzzcast around two names in the news. A big move in IndyCar, as one of the top architects and builders in the sport is stepping back. Not retiring, but just stepping back. Tim Cindric is president of Team Penske, and he joined Roger Penske in 1999. And he will step back as the overall leader of the organization, but remain president of Penske's IndyCar program. Tim Cindric has had a big job for a long time. He oversaw the operations for Roger Penske in NASCAR, in IndyCar, in IMSA, the World Endurance Championship Series. He oversaw Penske's technology group and so many other areas. And these are big, broad, hard jobs. Cindric started his role when he was 31, and now at 56, he admits he's just tired and ready to slow down. Not retire, just slow down. So for nearly 25 years, Tim Cindric traveled everywhere around the world, worked 7 days a week, built Penske's IndyCar program into a consistent title contender, and transformed Penske's NASCAR program to a very successful, sustainable operation with a number of Daytona 500 wins. And he did all this while working for the very well-respected but demanding and tireless leader, Roger Penske. Now, Tim Cindric will focus his role on Penske's 3-car IndyCar team while also serving as a strategist for one of the drivers, Joseph Newgarden. And finally, former MLB Commissioner Fay Vincent, who led the sport for 3 very challenging years, which included the lifetime ban of Pete Rose for gambling, died in Vero Beach at the age of 86. The cause was complications from bladder cancer. Fay Vincent was a controversial leader, and honestly, not well loved in baseball circles. He unexpectedly became commissioner in 1989 following the death of Bart Giamatti, and then was forced out by owners 3 years later, and these owners were intent on a new labor strategy and a labor confrontation with the players, and of course, that resulted in the 1994 strike. Fay Vincent's leadership was tested repeatedly throughout his 3 years. There was the Pete Rose issue. There was the suspension of George Steinbrenner. And like I said, he was not popular among owners. They removed him in favor of Bud Selig in 1992. Interesting. Fay Vincent admitted so much in a 2023 interview, saying he had mixed results and that the biggest regret he had was that he was unable to build a decent relationship between the owners and the players. And in the end, Fay Vincent lost the support of ownership, and Bud Selig and Jerry Reinsdorf had enough votes to issue a no-confidence vote against Fay Vincent in September 1992. Fay Vincent, who left a controversial legacy in baseball, dies at the age of 86. And so that is your morning Buzzcast for Monday, February 3rd. I'm Abe Madcore. Thanks for listening. Stay healthy. Be good to each other. I'll speak to you tomorrow.